English spelling is notoriously difficult. Yes, spelling can be hard to master in any language, but there's something particular about English that causes problems. It often seems like pronunciation and spelling just don't match up, or they're completely arbitrary. Take a sentence like this. The deers flew close to too many plain planes. They're their own worst enemies. And you can spell thorough, through, trough, though, tough, and ugh, and they each make pretty different sounds at the end. What's going on here? First, we need to talk about the alphabet. The Latin alphabet tries to assign one vowel to each sound. So K makes a ka sound and W makes a wa sound. In some languages like Spanish, there's pretty much a one-to-one correspondence between letters and the sounds they make. Even in long Spanish words like interdisciplinariedad, each and every letter is pronounced. English is not so lucky. From the start of English writing in roughly the 5th century, spelling wasn't standardized. The Anglo-Saxons had adapted the Roman alphabet to apply to English, and like other languages, the first English writings attempted to capture spoken words as best as they could. But because of differences in dialect and interpretation, a word spelled one way in one place could be spelled completely differently somewhere else. The word through is a good example of this, because the more obvious spelling, thru, actually predates through, and through actually went through many different spellings before it was standardized. So while there were dozens of options, toch, troch, thur, all were used at different points, through managed to win out, mostly due to random chance. It wasn't until about the 16th century onward that people started agreeing on a single spelling, mostly because the printing press spread language further than before. Over time, as English writing spread, standards were developed, which is why today we can, for the most part, agree on how a word should be spelled. Almost all written languages went through the same kind of evolution. But English faced a particular problem that made its spelling weird, and that problem was other languages. When the language we now call English first started forming, it was solely a Germanic language. But because of the influence of Roman forces, Norman invaders, and Scandinavians, the language started to borrow vocabulary from several different languages, especially French, Latin, and Old Norse. This borrowed vocabulary, along with the growing population of people speaking English, made the language shift from a purely phonetic alphabet to a more confusing situation. These weird spelling norms caused by foreign vocabulary have a strong effect on English spelling today. French famously doesn't pronounce all of the letters in its words, and it's estimated that about 30% of English words have their roots in French. Examples include words like kernel, mayonnaise, and montage. And English only gets more complicated because, as the most studied language in the world, it continues to take on more loanwords, adapting local spelling norms to fit it into the English dictionary. For example, words like emoji, sriracha, and bibimbap have all made it into Merriam-Webster dictionary in the past few years. So English spelling is complicated because it's trying to adapt various spellings from a huge number of different languages. A word that comes from French might be spelled entirely differently from a word that comes from Arabic, even if they sound similar, like chic and chic. This is also why, at spelling bees, contestants often ask for a word's language of origin. It's a very useful piece of information. The complicated history of spelling norms and language evolution can make it very hard for English learners, but it has helped make English a more global language, willing to adapt to the needs of the many languages it interacts with.